a new subject, which is quality management. Quality management, it is one of the area that is very important when it comes to project planning. The objective from learning of project management, quality management, is to understand how important is to measure quality for your product, specifically in the information technology, products and services. And we want to understand the definition or know the definition of quality management and how is quality related to the information technology project. So that we need to study the relationship and describe the quality planning and its relationship to project scope, and discuss the importance quality assurance in general, and examine the output of quality control process. And also we need to understand the tools that is being used to measure quality, such as 7 basic tools quality, statistical sampling, Six Sigma, which is a very popular, common way, and there is a Six Sigma certification that is very well known in the project management. So if you have the Six Sigma certification, it will elevate your chances to get the job as a project manager. So that's why it is important to know those tools, also to see the contribution that is being done in the quality control management, and describe how is the leadership, cost management, and organization influence expectation or and culture that affect or in improving the quality management, and discuss how software can assist, different software can assist in improving the quality management. Why it's important to measure quality in our project? There is always rejection when there is a problem in your project, and you can tell there is it is relevant to the customer satisfaction. When you manage a project, you trying to satisfy your stakeholder. So quality control, it shows how you meet the specification that was being done, that was provided to you, and based on the specification you produce the product. The product is measured using the specification. This is your counter defense when the customer tries to complain or see there is a problem. And also imagine when you manage a project to produce a software, piece of software, or application, certain application. If this application downtime is more than 10%, this is really bad. So people cannot resist an issue like that, specifically the stakeholder or customer. Therefore, you are measured against this outcome also. And that's why the quality is very important in the IT project, and it is easy to be measured based on the product you're providing. In 1986, two hospitals, patient died. Why? Because they received fatal doses of radiation from some machine. And the cause was a software problem. The software ignores the calibration data that was provided. So the application was not implemented to consider this data, calibration data. Therefore, the radiation release was more than what is supposed to be. And the result was two patients died. Another situation, really bad situation, in banking history, for example, Chemical Bank mistakenly deducted about $15 million from more than 100,000 customer account. This is also because failure to provide an application or product that outcome appropriate data, produce appropriate result. Another example, 2008, about 236 million data record was cumbersome due to security breaches. Why? Because lack of security, or the security was weak due to the data repository not being protected by the software network, etc. Okay. So that's why we have to emphasize on the quality control to make sure incidents like that does not happen. And what is project quality? The ISO, International Organization Standardization, define quality as the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfill requirement. So you have a requirement, and how much the final product adhere to this requirement, this will produce a good quality product. Another example or another definition, but I hope you got the idea. There is project, start with project cycle. This project cycle start with the requirement to start with engaging the customer to understand all the situation. Based on the requirement and the sign off on the project, you go implement the application, and you measure the quality. You go back to the requirement and you test, or you check your product against this requirement. And if this process was done correctly, you will end up with a very good product, and will do as was intended to do. Washer dryer. معلش شوية. Okay. The quality management ensures the project satisfy the need which was undertaken in the requirement. And quality management to make sure the product was produced under certain or based on the requirement, we have to follow a process to measure the quality of the product. أول issue, we have to plan for the quality, then perform the assurance, the quality assurance, and we have to do performance controlling. And the planning is to identify which quality standard relevant to the project, and we have to produce metrics. Metrics, something measured, like statistics, like numbers, like the application was down 10 times this week. This is metric, 10 times. So we can measure based on it. The quality assurance, performance quality assurance is evaluating the project performance to ensure the project will satisfy the relevant quality standard. وبعدين performing quality control, monitoring basically project to ensure that it comply with the relevant standard. And this is showing like a document for quality control management. You can provide like a planning. You can list the process name, what is the expected outcome, and when you execute it, what is the outcome? When you monitor, what is the outcome? It's just an example of how these quality controls start and how it is documented. Planning quality control, the ability to anticipate situation. It's basically, the goal is to prevent defects. Usually when the IT releases the product, it's been tested. When a quality assurance team tested an application, they produce defect list. Defects, يعني if you know the application testing cycle, the release, developer release the application is installed in a staging environment relevant to production environment, where is the production environment, where is the real people, actual data will be passed through the application. So the quality assurance team, it starts to test the application before it goes to production to make sure it is functioning as intended. So if there is a certain functionality that is not producing the intended result, they report a defect, or sometimes alternatively we use bug. They report a bug in the application. So the planning of the quality control, the idea is behind it to have an application, and I think we lost the sharing, did we?
لا دكتور مبين.
Okay. Okay. Still seeing the presentation, مظبوط?
Yes.
Because I lost the network for a minute, then it went back. Okay, so the planning aim is to basically try to prevent defect to happen by selecting proper material and introducing the people to the quality process, and we have to approach or think ahead, approaching the outcomes. Designing of the experiment we have to identify what is the most effective, the most factor that affect or influence the outcome of the project. يعني عندنا احنا certain project في عندنا focus on certain areas, certain functionality or critical area. We have to identify those, and we have also to apply the have in consideration the cost and the schedule trade-off when we design the quality control process. And also documentation always is a big part of any process, especially the quality control, because it involves creating, for example, you have to create a test plan. Test plan that is prior to application release. Application release will be planned in 1 month. Parallel to that, quality assurance team start to design test plan. Test plan based on, who can answer? إذا ما عندناش application test. So quality control team has to create test, must measure the released application. معي؟
يعني المفروض انه يعني زي يحطوا زي performance goals او standards و
هي
application it reaches the standards.
Okay, performance is part of the test plan. And you need to test the performance of the released application, or the application will be released, to see the performance based on the environment will be used. That's one set of quality measure. There is a functional testing. This is a system testing. Functional testing, it will test each single function in the application. And system testing, it will test system as a whole. It is functioning as a whole. There is a testing related to integration, data integration, to make sure the application, if you have input is X and expected Y to be output, Y will be inputted. Specific example, you have the calculation using certain formula, and the formula will be applied via the application. Application will produce a certain number. This number will be as an appropriate output. So before the application is being implemented, quality assurance teams start to implement the test cases or test plan, test scenarios. What is the basis? How they can produce the test scenario for application not being released? This is my question. Based on, if you guys thinking about development cycle, any project start with إيش? Requirement gathering. And requirement gathering, requirement has a function and non-function of the application. So the application, how to work, start from the requirement. So I'll have to go back to the requirement, check against these requirements, and design my test plan to be applied on the released version of the application. Make sense? Shabab? Make sense? So the quality control started in very early stages of any application. We'll stop right here and we'll continue on the scope aspect of IT project next time.
بس سؤال هلا
اسبكت. كمل تفضل ياس.
كنت استناك تكمل يلا معلش. هلا كل اي تي بروجكت او مثلا بيلدينج ان اب لازم يمشي على هدول عشان مثلا يوصل لجوجل وينحط بالبلاي ستور ولا الاب ستور.
Before يعني we think about app store, you have to take any project, your project, in different approach. انت عندك need to develop an application. Application start from requirement gathering. Requirement gather is one step in the system development life cycle. So in software engineering, there is something called system development life cycle, which is the cycle that any application needed to be developed has to go through these cycles. And this cycle, regardless of what process it approaches, a process mean waterfall, agile. If you guys heard about this terminology, probably you will study this later. So regardless of the process, any project has to start with requirement gathering to know what you need to implement. ماشي. Apart from Google Apple Store, you need to produce an application that meets your requirement. And you need to test the application against this requirement. Then after you're satisfied, you are ready to release. Best, there is a logical quality control. يعني مثل الإكزامبل اللي أعطيتك إياه مثلا if you have a calculation, you input a number, you expected a number. This is a logical errors that is not compiling error. Versus compiling error, those are the ones that you cannot really release an application. لما انت you try to release the application crashes.
Yeah.
So the application has to be free of this error in order to to be able to يعني offer it at least يعني. بس يعني quality control implies the application is doing what is exactly intended to do.
تمام.
بس كتبت كلمة على الشات بس بدي أعرف معناها لو سمحت.
على الشات, let me go على الشات. DevOps. DevOps is a development operation engineer. This if you go to شو اسمه Amazon Web Services,
أنا شفتها صراحة أكثر من شركة بيكونوا يعني طالبين موظف اي تي بيكون هاي من الشروط. DevOps operation is the person that maintain basically a cloud infrastructure engineer. You're able to like SaaS system as a software or different cloud infrastructure.
SaaS
you will
is
have
system
to
as a service.
System as a service, yes. System as a service or different platform which is provided by a big player like Azure from Microsoft and AWS certificate.
امازون يس وجوجل كلاود.
AWS من مين؟ Amazon.
امازون ويب سيرفيس.
Amazon Web Services.
Yes.
These certificates provide you to be a DevOps engineer. But mainly يعني ال skills that is required, you need to know about Linux, Unix, you need to know about file system, you need to know about cloud services and etc.
شكرا مهندس.
I mean, by the way, هذا it's a very very يعني good field و they pay very good. بس
انا شفت حتى رواتبهم كثير كانت عالية. يعني كوكا كولا عندهم عقدهم بالسنة $130,000. هاي كوكا كولا هاي كمان مش شركة اي تي.
Yes. And opposite way يعني it's equivalent DevOps engineer. It's equivalent like a system engineer back in the days, where you are hired in a company to maintain servers farms. Yani you have a network of server hold or host and applications, and these application need to a system administrator and know about operating system and networks and etc. Okay, Shabab.
اوكي مهندس.
All right. Until next week, I wish you a very good weekend. Ramadan is coming up, so enjoy your time. Be safe.
يعطيك العافية مهندس.
ان شاء الله يعطيك العافية مهندس.
الله يعافيك.
يعطيك العافية مهندس.
مع السلامة.
يعطيك العافية مهندس.
أهلا. شو مالك؟